motion picture is a tool that allows an audience to experience a story both orally and visually. While the medium may be the same, film genres range from comedy to horror and action to drama. However, not every film made is one that you will remember or one that will pack theaters. Given the global landscape of movies and their countries of origin, inevitably a series of questions comes to mind. What makes a film successful outside of its country of origin?
Why do certain types of movies become successful overseas, while others only find success within the local culture and market?
Moreover, are movies created in a specific format in order to reach a defined target audience? Or is it the other way around?
There is no doubt that local language, culture, and history have a major impact on the films produced across the globe. But is there anything else to it?
How much do stereotypes and the expectations of international audiences shape the types of products created by each country's film industries?
To answer these questions, let's examine three very different film industries: India, France, and Spain, and try to understand the different scenarios each one represents and the answers that come from each territory. Also, we will take a closer look at the key elements that make movies successful, both inside their countries and overseas, including the audience's expectations, marketing and distribution, and finally, the general context related to the timing of a film's release.
Film was born in France in 1895 with the Lumiere brothers' film, The Arrival of a Train at La Ciotat Station, a 50-second film that was at the time considered a revolutionary achievement. Beyond their legacy, Les Frères Lumière became the most famous for the manufacture and sale of filmmaking equipment around the world. France would continue to dominate the film industry along with other European countries until World War I, when Hollywood gained the international foothold that it still maintains. Today, France boasts a strong cinema-going culture that is supported by both spectators and the government. According to the Centre National du Cinéma et de l'Image Animée, which is part of the French Ministry of Culture, there were 204 million tickets sold at French theaters in 2012, a figure representing 3 times the entire population. Also, a portion of revenues from French films is designated by the government to support the creative process and the production of future French films. Internationally, French film has a well-established brand and is known for avant-garde and original storytelling. In opposition to US films, which excel at big-budget, high-octane action thrillers, French film has a history of taking fresh approaches to the human experience and presenting them on the big screen.
While there is evidence of Indian cinema dating back as early as 1899, most regard the film Raja Harishchandra, a silent film about a famous Hindu king, as India's first film, dating back to 1913. In the interim, film in India has evolved into a national passion. While Hindi cinema, popularly known as Bollywood, is the best known globally, films are produced in many of India's languages, leading India to be the most prolific filmmaking country in the world. Indian film has evolved a distinctive format unique from Western cinema. Music is central to traditional Indian storytelling, and this feature is present in film as well. The vast majority of Indian films are musicals, featuring multiple choreographed pieces that not only carry forward the narration, but also are commercially essential, as songs alone can drive box office sales.
In Indian cinema, most films that have music, what we try to do is we try to enhance the emotion of a scene preceding it. If you have a sad scene in which you have the actor or the hero or the heroine going through this pathos and a sad moment, and that has been expressed in words, then the song comes in and enhances that emotion slightly in a much profound and a larger way, which probably the scene in its dialogue couldn't have done.
The history of Spanish cinema dates back to 1895, being followed by a very prosperous era of silent cinema that lasted until the 1930s. Around 1936, both sides of the Civil War began to use cinema as a means of propaganda and censorship, and the pro-Franco side founded the National Department of Cinematography, starting a long period of government-sponsored cinema during the dictatorship. In recent years, Spanish cinema has achieved high marks of recognition. In the long history of Spanish cinema, the great filmmaker Luis Buñuel was the first to achieve universal recognition, followed by Pedro Almodóvar in the 1980s.
However, today, only 10 to 20% of box office receipts in Spain are generated by domestic films. The Spanish government has therefore implemented various measures aimed at supporting local film production and movie theaters, which include the assurance of funding from the main national television stations. Understanding the historical and cultural context for each of these three markets is only one part of what makes a film successful. Audiences go to see and appreciate films that resonate with their expectations of what a culture's films can offer them. Knowing this, the films that cater to these preconceptions are sometimes more likely to be made and supported, both domestically and internationally.
In France, the films Amélie and Bienvenue chez les Ch'tis, which has an English title of Welcome to the Sticks, provide strong examples for the different outcomes that result from this element. The film, Le Fabuleux Destin d'Amélie Poulain, directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet, is a story that follows a young woman's adventures as she decides to alter the lives of those around her for the better, and in doing so, finds an improvement of her own. It is set in Paris and includes many of the classic elements that audiences have come to expect from French film. The character is quirky and endearing, upbeat accordions accompany much of the plot, and aspects of everyday French life, as it is perceived by the world, figure prominently throughout the storyline. In this clip, we observe the cafe where the main character works as crucial elements of French culture are reinforced.
Et voilà, elles sont à tomber à genoux.
Ça veut dire qu'elles sont bonnes?
Tous les ponts, tout tombent à genoux.
C'est vrai? Si c'est devant la cuvette des WC.
Là, ça veut dire qu'elles sont pas bonnes.
Midi 15, rire de gorge évoquant l'orgasme. Motif plaire au mâle dominant.
Continue à m'emmerder, moi je réponds plus de rien.
Mais c'est vrai ça, pourquoi il insiste? Il y a des bistrots tous les 20 mètres dans le quartier.
Au revoir.
The humor of the two gentlemen placing an order, as well as the mention of the abundance of cafes in the area, contribute to a well-established perception of Parisian life. In contrast, in Welcome to the Sticks, the main character tries to lie about a disability in order to get transferred to a sunny location in the south of France. When he is discovered to have lied, he receives the verdict of his punishment.
J'ai une bonne et une mauvaise nouvelle.
Je suis suspendu, c'est ça?
Pire.
Viré.
Pire encore.
Pire que viré, c'est quoi?
T'es muté dans le Nord.
Le Nord? Non. À Lyon?
Ah non, pas à Lyon, dans le Nord.
Ah non, pas à Paris. Me dis pas qu'il m'envoie à Paris.
Pas à Paris. Plus au Nord.
En Belgique.
Ah non. Avant la Belgique, il y a le Nord-Pas-de-Calais. Voilà, t'es muté à côté de Lille.
Lille? Lille de quoi?
Non, pas sur une île, Lille, la ville de Lille.
La ville de Lille? C'est horrible.
Et tu commences lundi prochain.
Lundi qui vient, là? Non, je peux pas, j'ai pas de vêtements chauds, je sais même pas où habiter.
Oh, regarde, il y a un logement de fonction qui est prévu pour le chef d'établissement.
Oh putain, mais c'est où qu'il m'envoie?
À Bergue.
By contrast, in this clip we see references that are not part of the perception that audiences will expect from a French movie. In France, these jokes are well known. The perceptions French audiences have of the various places Philippe believes he will be sent need no explanation. For non-French international audiences, however, these references fall flat. These nuanced differences may seem merely cultural, but when you consider the impact on distribution, the contrast is clear.
Perhaps the most successful crossover film from India to date has been Lagan. The Academy Award-nominated film told the fictional story of a group of villagers during the British Empire who overcome all odds to beat the local British officers at their own game, cricket. Part of the success of the film can be explained by its abundance of rich cultural markers, such as the vivid depictions of rural India and its beautifully written and choreographed songs. However, the film also was successful because it touched upon universal themes that resonated with audiences regardless of cultural background.
I think it had a very unusual plot premise. It was multi-genres in one film. So if you look at it, it is a film about, it's a triumph of the human spirit, but that being the main theme, it also talked about how people, if they come together, despite their differences, to achieve a common goal, they can. So kind of united we stand, that kind of a theme, that is another theme that it had. The unusual combination was of it also being a sports film, also a period film. It was also a romance. There was a kind of a triangle, a mini love triangle between the three main characters. I think that all these, it was unusual to find all of them in one movie.
The blockbuster Hindi film Three Idiots broke all Indian box office records when it released. The film is a comedy about college life in India. The intense competition and pressure from family to perform well were shown in their most comic and tragic forms, and one of the songs of the film, All Is Well, became a popular mantra about resisting the pressure. However, though this issue is a very top-of-mind concern in India, it is not a universally relatable topic. Therefore, while the film did extremely well amongst Indian diaspora and even in some East Asian markets where similar issues exist, it did not cross over broadly in the way that Lagan did.
Pedro Almodóvar's work explores themes of family, identity, and passion through his signature combination of melodrama, pop culture, and irreverent humor. The 1999 film Todo sobre mi madre, or All About My Mother, was one of Almodóvar's greatest critical and popular successes. In it, Almodóvar follows the lives of a group of women brought together in the wake of personal tragedy. The audience quickly learns that while at first the characters may appear familiar, there is much more to each woman than meets the eye.
Me llaman la agrado, porque toda mi vida solo he pretendido hacerle la vida agradable a los demás. Además de agradable, soy muy auténtica. Miren qué cuerpo. Todo hecho a medida. Rasgado de ojos, 80.000. Nariz, 200. Tiras a la basura porque un año después me la pusieron así de otro palizón. Ya sé que me da mucha personalidad, pero si llego a saberlo, no me la toco. Continúo. Teta, 2, porque no soy ningún monstruo. 70 cada una. Pero estas las tengo ya súper amortizadas. Silicona en... ¿Dónde? Labio, frente...
Compare Torrente, a bawdy, slapstick police comedy where what you see is exactly what you get. Torrente grossed over $29 million domestically, and at the time of its release in 1998, was the most popular Spanish film in history. It inspired the creation of a wildly successful series, and its 3 companion films are some of Spain's greatest domestic successes. The eagerly anticipated 5th part of the series will be released in late 2014. All About My Mother, which won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film, earned only $8 million. Larger budget films that are financed by established studios are able to tap into distribution networks domestically and internationally. Smaller films have to compete for attention from distributors through festivals. The more buzz they generate, the more likely they will be to reach more screens.
While dollar amounts may differ with respect to marketing, the buzz created around the film has an overwhelming effect on box office performance. Deliberate actions by the filmmakers and studio can enhance this, but do not ensure that this buzz will take hold without content that plays into or defies expectations.
François Ozon is an example of a director who has a history of defying expectations and original storytelling through his films. This has led him to be nominated 3 times for Best Director at the César Awards, which is the French equivalent of the Oscars. Despite never having won, he has built a strong reputation that assures him an audience and therefore access to resources. Dans la Maison, released in 2012, is one of the 3 for which he was nominated. In this clip, we see Germain and his wife Jeanne speaking about the writing of his student Claude. Germain is unclear if the fascinating stories Claude has been writing are fiction or based on a harrowing reality.
Je suis mal à l'aise.
Pourquoi?
Tu trouves pas ça choquant qu'un élève de 16 ans écrive un truc pareil? Avec une telle ironie?
Oh non, moi ça me choque pas. En tout cas pas plus que tes poupées gonflables pour sex shop.
Ce n'est pas un sex shop, Germain, c'est une galerie d'art.
Je sais, ce sont des poupées détournées, sexe et dictature.
Oui, ça a un sens. La dictature du sexe. Tu devrais peut-être en parler au directeur.
Parce qu'il parle du corps d'une femme de la classe moyenne.
Eh bien, parle à tes collègues, aux autres profs de la classe et aux parents. Oui, tu devrais parler aux parents.
Ah ouais, pour qu'ils l'empêchent de rentrer dans leur maison.
Pas aux parents de Rafa. Aux parents de l'écrivain, enfin, ce Claude. Il a besoin d'un psy, ce garçon. Il est bizarre, il est peut-être dangereux.
Mais non.
The humor and horror of the topics and images seen here are indicative of the movie at large. While this may have been a risk for an unproven director, Dans la Maison was released in October and still made the top 20 most successful French films list in 2012.
The film Water, by acclaimed director Deepa Mehta, faced immense controversy due to its sensitive topic of the customary isolation of Hindu widows in the early 20th century. Protests, threats against the film team, and even a burning down of a set led to it becoming impossible for Mehta to shoot the film in India, and the director ultimately had to do so in Sri Lanka. Water, whose international acclaim even included a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Foreign Film, was met with only a lukewarm response in India. Many Indians believed that the film benefited from a negative portrayal of India. Others felt the film was simply not about a topic that resonated with them and contemporary Indian society.
यही तुम्हारा घर है।
फिर अम्मा कहाँ? बाबा, अम्मा कहाँ? बाबा, अम्मा कहाँ?
चल आ।
बाबा, बाबा, हमको छोड़ो, हम यहाँ नहीं रहेंगे बाबा।
Lovers of the Arctic Circle, or Los Amantes del Círculo Polar, is a 1998 film directed by Julio Medem. Although not a popular success, the film received domestic and international recognition, including 2 Goya Awards. It is the story of 2 step-siblings who fall in love as children and reunite years later in the Arctic Circle, under the midnight sun. The plot follows a circular path while featuring themes such as love, death, destiny, nature, and the circle of life.
¿Ahora te enteras? Sí. ¿Ahora te enteras? Mi padre solía decirme que mi nombre era Capicúa para que mi vida se llenara de suerte. Así que me dio un vuelco la vida.
Cinema is art, but it is also a commercial endeavor because the cost of producing it means that it requires patronage to survive. As a result, it is art that is also, by necessity, a business. However, in order for films to do well in a given context, they need to work on a number of different levels, some cultural, some business-driven.
The most important factor driving whether a film can succeed in international markets is the presence of widely recognized cultural markers. It is critical that these elements resonate with the specific preconceptions that the audience has of that country. In addition, it is crucial that the film be made in art cinema style. Other formats are not successful outside of their home country. The exception to this rule is American cinema, which due to the strength of financing, distribution, and marketing has been able to make the brand Hollywood synonymous with popular culture the world over. In contrast, cinema from any other country must be perceived as world cinema.
Whether it is the stereotypical depictions of Paris in Amélie or the signature style of Almodovar in All About My Mother, the international audiences want to see a slice of life in cinema that emphasizes a unique aspect of the country or culture of the film. Conversely, domestic audiences will want to be able to identify more personally with the story, which may involve an entirely different set of cultural markers. 3 Idiots is an example of this, in that the story resonates around the extreme pressure of students in India to do well. This is a very related topic in India, but not necessarily one that would resonate outside of the country as a cultural marker.
Of course, the business of cinema plays an important part in the way films perform in different contexts. Marketing and distribution in particular are elements to watch.
But, as they say in show business, you must give the people what they want. Our research demonstrated that what they want are films that reflect the cultural markers they recognize in the artistic format they expect to see from foreign cinema. Of course, as the world and the nature of the film business change along with advances in technology and globalization, this recipe for success may evolve as well. Ultimately, though, content is king.
समझी ना सेन्योरिटा चाहत के दो पल भी